Hello, everybody. I can't believe it's October's over. It's November somehow. Time keeps passing. And it's time to talk about my October books. Of which there are 5. So, you know, that's good. And kind of a mixed bag. Well, we'll do them in order. All right. First of all, Jade City by Fonda. So this is the beginning of a fantasy trilogy that I've been wanting to read for a little while. I think the final book came out like, I want to say last year, but it might have been early this year. I'm not really sure. And, you know, when a trilogy is complete, I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to actually start it now. So it's like, it's set on this made-up island that has this claim to fame that it's the only place in the world where this magical form of jade can be mined. It sort of annoyed me before I read the book, and honestly I still don't really love it. They're always going on about jade. And the funniest thing, for me at least, was hearing people on BookTube talk about this book. And they always sort of made it sound a little bit like they don't realize jade is a real thing. It's like, okay, jade is just a kind of gemstone, right? Like I'm not a rock person. I don't really know what counts as a gemstone and what doesn't, but jade is like these shiny green rocks. They're like really into them in China or something. But they're very pretty. But anyway, this island called K-Con, I think has jade, but like it's magic jade. And they have a bunch of people who are able to, if they're wearing that jade, like jewelry or whatever, they can do magic. It gives them like more power, more strength, ability to like block attacks or to have like heightened perception. It's a little bit like the Force. Like, okay, you know, if you've watched Star Wars stuff, the kind of stuff Jedi can do because of the Force, it's kind of like that. It's not magic like, you know, there's no spells, there's none of that. It's just kind of enhanced fighting and perceptional abilities. And some like healing stuff as well for individuals who train more specifically to be doctors and stuff. But anyway, so it's about this family that is the head of one of the like jade warrior like gangs on this island, and they're like one of the largest but not the largest. But the actual largest gang has started to kind of stir shit and cause problems, and it turns into this gang war. And it's an alright book. I was less into it than I hoped I would be. Kind of unfortunately, the character I found the most interesting dies like halfway through the book, and I was like, God damn it. So, you know, that sucked. But it was, I don't know. It was good enough that I'm going to read the sequel. I guess it's just not entirely my kind of fantasy. I prefer high fantasy, and this is more cars exist. I mean, it's a little unclear, like, it's obviously set in another world with different countries. It's a little unclear, like, what the kind of time period equivalent is, just because I was like, okay, what should I be imagining? And I was thinking kind of like maybe 1950s, all right? I think that works. I didn't look up to see if any of the cars are actual cars. They're probably just made up cars, but they have these big fancy cars. They have phones, but like they don't have the internet. That stuff doesn't exist yet. There's more sexism than one might expect if it were more modern. Plus, it also means you get to imagine all of these badass gangster types in like the 1940s kind of and 1950s kind of way of men dressing in suits, and it's always like a very good look. So anyway, I will continue reading that trilogy. I'd like to read the second book before the year is over, but we'll see. Okay, then I read Frankenstein by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. So I wanted to try and repeat the success of last October, where I listened to Dracula and it was a fantastically good book, by listening to Frankenstein. So I've actually read Frankenstein before, but it was like in high school, so I didn't really remember any of the details. I didn't like it that much. I gotta admit. I found the characters to all be irritating and not in a fun way, and it wasn't scary. And I mean, I understand that I probably shouldn't have come at it wanting to be another Dracula. Dracula is genuinely a horror novel. Frankenstein isn't, which I think is interesting because the Frankenstein movies are horror movies, but the book is like, I mean, it's like a lot of people will point to it as example of like one of the first sci-fi novels. And I think that, you know, kind of works out because like there's a lot of philosophizing. There isn't much about the science actually at all. Like he just straight up refuses to explain how he brought a dead body to life. He also really doesn't get into where he got the bits for it, which is so funny because like I've seen the movie. The movie is so different. Like in the movie, Dr. Frankenstein is a doctor and he's this insane mad scientist who lives in a castle or whatever. In the book, he's a college student who starts this crazy experiment in his apartment. He keeps saying it's his apartment. Like he has a lab in his apartment, but that's still hilarious. And he basically like spends 2 years putting together this being and then gives it life. And he is so non-specific about how any of this happened. He's like, I'm not gonna tell you. It's a secret. I'm like, okay. And then he's immediately like, oh no, I hate him. And then he has like a mental breakdown, which I thought that the book said lasted for like 2 months where this friend of his was taking care of him. But I think it must have been longer than that because when the creature starts telling his story later in the book, it's obviously not just 2 months. It's like a couple of years. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? But anyway, I don't know. There was timeline stuff that didn't make sense. Like he was like, oh, it's been 6 years since I was at home. And I'm like, okay, well, the last time you were home, it was when your mother died. So how do you have a younger brother who's 5? Explain this, please. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is that it wasn't scary. The creature talks like he's an incel. And I spent a lot of time just being like, shut the fuck up. Also, there's the creepy thing in the book, I feel like the only creepy thing in the book, is that the creature wants Frankenstein to make him a bride. He's like, make another monster like me, and then we'll run off together and we won't bother the rest of you. And Frankenstein is like, fine, I'll do it, but then he really doesn't want to do it. And then he's also like, this is a horrifying, you know, and also what if she doesn't want to hang out with you, bro? Anyway, it's a weird book. It really is. And I can't say I feel too sorry for either character. Like Frankenstein brought this bullshit on himself by making a dude and then immediately freaking out. Like, what did you think was going to happen when you made him come to life? He came to life, okay? And then the creature is a horrible bastard man. Like, he's like, nobody has ever been kind to me, and so therefore I will hate the entire world and I will like murder your siblings and your wife. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, I hate you. Anyway, I tried, but I hated him. All right, let's move on. All Systems Red by Martha Wells. I really enjoyed this. So this is a novella. It's the first of the Murderbot Diaries, and maybe I'm a little bit late getting into them, but I usually don't read novellas. But I happened to notice that the library has like the entire series, and so I was like, hello. Also, very helpfully, they stick the numbers on the little sticker on the spine that says, you know, like SF Wells, comma M, you know, and then it has like the number. So I'm like, thank you. That's really helpful because I didn't want to look it up. Anyway, All Systems Red introduces the concept. I guess basically Murderbot is a security robot or android, who cares, and then in this particular novella has been assigned to work with this group of scientists. It's uncomfortable because they keep kind of trying to treat it like a person. But also a bunch of stuff is going on, and they have to like deal with some underhanded stuff, and some people are trying to like kill them. So I enjoyed it. I like Murderbot, and I like how it straight up just starts simping for like the one like the leader of the group. It's kind of funny. I also just love how deeply awkward it is. I'm also trying so hard to call Murderbot it, because those are the pronouns that it uses. I just hate them, but whatever. The Quiet American by Graham Greene. Yeah, let's just move on. Okay, I don't know. I was at the library. I was like looking for something else, and I couldn't find it because they didn't have it. And I saw The Quiet American, and I was like, you know what? I've always meant to read some Graham Greene. And by always, I mean maybe for the last couple of years, not for very long. But yeah, so The Quiet American is like, how the fuck do I describe this? It's kind of a classic. It's from the 50s though, so it's not like it's that old. But it's about this journalist in Vietnam during some war that the French and Vietnamese are having, which like, I didn't look up any of the history of this. I don't know why they were having a war. I don't know what's going on. I think France did some colonizing in Vietnam. I knew that much, but I don't know anything else. I'm like, does this turn into the Vietnam War of what we call it in America? It's too early for that, you know, but it could just kind of keep happening. But then also, anyway, whatever. This journalist is working in Vietnam, and he's got this girlfriend, and he's just got this life, and he doesn't really want to do anything or go anywhere, but he becomes an acquaintance of this young American man who shows up, and he figures out is pretty clearly like doing some CIA bullshit or whatever. And the whole thing starts though with him finding out that this guy, whose name I don't remember, I'm sorry, has died and probably been murdered. Like, he was shot, but he fell into the river and drowned. And so it starts off with this like French police captain questioning him and his girlfriend, and because they know him, and his girlfriend dated the guy for a few months kind of awkwardly. And like, it's a sad book, honestly. It is. I thought the ending was quite good when you find out like what happened, really, you know. And it was really well written, and it made me sad. So there you go. Okay, and finally, Bad Voltage by Jonathan Little. So this, let's show it off. I have this. I only have this because it was a book from my list and I couldn't get it through the library at all. So I bought a copy. And I specifically was like, we're buying the copy with the dope cover, okay? Now this is probably supposed to be the main character, Lynx. It doesn't look anything like him. He is not white, for one thing. And he also has like long hair with a lot of braids. And also, or dreadlocks. It's a little unclear. I'm like, those are different things, author. But anyway, so how do I describe this? It's kind of pulpy. It's basically just like nonsense with all of these characters running around Paris and being, it's like cyberpunk kind of. The only cyberpunk book I've ever read was Neuromancer, which is like the granddaddy cyberpunk book. I thought I liked it though. Like, okay, this is the kind of bullshit book where you open it and half the words are like weird stuff and you have to figure out what the hell any of it means. Like, love it. Absolutely love it. Do I want every book to be like this? No way. But I do love to read a book where I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then you never quite figure it out. But yeah, so like, okay, so it's the future and the future sucks, but this kid grew up on the street And him and a bunch of other street kids just kind of like spend a lot of time in like the catacombs or in bunkers or like just underground, under Paris, running around, and they do just like death-defying bullshit a lot of the time, and they're always like causing problems and just trying to avoid the assholes who are the cops. And then in this book he kind of like gets accidentally, well, he gets hit by a car, and this is how he meets this heiress, super rich heiress woman who is bonkers, and they date for a while, and she kind of drags him into her like completely insane universe where like everybody is also doing crazy shit, but it's more evil. And then there's this whole heist at the end. I think the whole reason I even heard of this book and had it on my list on Goodreads for several years was because the main character is also bisexual, and I was like, yay, it's a book from the 80s about a bisexual guy. And, you know, I did think it was a little, I'm not gonna say sus, like people can write whatever the hell they want, but the only sex scenes in this book, none of which I enjoyed reading, but they were always between Lynx and a woman, a couple of different characters, one of whom was, you know, perhaps a little young for him, but whatever. I was like, okay, dude, okay. But also he grew up on the street, so who the fuck is gonna tell him about like, you know, don't have sex with 13-year-olds or whatever. Like, don't do it. You're an adult. I mean, he's like 20. He's barely an adult, but he isn't. Anyway, who cares? Don't read this book. But there's never any sex scenes between him and the guy he's dating at the beginning of the book, which I don't know. I was just like, well, if you're gonna make me read sex scenes, give me some equal opportunity. Anyway, it really doesn't matter though. I liked it. My phone is ringing, but we're gonna ignore that. But I am basically done talking about this too. It was fine. It was a good time because it was just so like weird. And yeah. And I also love the cover, despite that clearly not really being Lynx. This cover is just insane and makes me happy. So there you go. And that's it for October. And yeah. I'm actually, if you want an update on the list, I'm sure you don't, nobody cares. I have 3 more books to read. So I'm like, I think I might make it. I think I might succeed this year. Fingers crossed, I might actually read all 20, and then, I don't know, I get a prize, maybe.